Hi, my name is Ryan, and I am the Movie Pastor. I watch movies with my Movie Pass that lets me get into theaters for free. I just pay monthly. And I am teaching you, I gotta use this pointer here. I'm teaching myself how to do YouTube videos, but I'm also teaching you how to think theologically. And thinking theologically is not something that you have to be a Christian to do. I think Christians certainly have an advantage, but it's something that we all do when we think deeply about the meaning of a thing, when we think about the meaning and purpose of our lives, and when we think about morals and ethics. And one of the moves that we do often in theological thinking is to put texts in conversation with one another. So for instance, with the biblical text, we might look at Romans, and then on another hand, we might look at Leviticus, and we put those two texts in conversation, and we say, well, what would we walk away with if we just read Leviticus? What would we walk away with if we just read Romans? And what do they have to say to one another? You can imagine like two little dolls talking to. That's one of the skills that we need to develop. And we also do that, of course, with the biblical text and with theologians and with one theologian to another theologian. It's just an important concept. So I want to demonstrate today how you can be thinking theologically, even if you're not engaging with the biblical text, by putting in conversation these two films that I've seen recently. They're over here, 21 Bridges and Queen and Slim. What do these have to say to each other? Well, a lot of stuff. Let's talk about how they're the same and different. For one thing, they are both racially charged. They both deal with police, and they both deal with criminals. And in both cases, the police, the general police, are not unimpeachable. They're complex depictions of the police, and there is police corruption that is deeply at issue in both films. Well, how are they different? Well, in Queen and Slim, we follow the victims of the police, the fugitives, the people who are on the run. In 21 Bridges, we follow the detectives and the people who are trying to catch those on the run from the police. So it leads us to ask the question, who's right? Who are the real good guys? Is it the detectives, the people working for law enforcement, or is it the criminals? Is it the people on the run from the corrupt police? There's just tons of difference between those conclusions. They are opposites. Now, here's an interesting question. Do these movies contradict with one another? Is 21 Bridges saying something that Queen and Slim can't abide, and that if Queen and Slim is true, 21 Bridges can't be true? Or could these actually exist in the same universe? I say they could exist in the same universe. I say they don't contradict. So that's an interesting conclusion to make. I mean, that's something that's argued about often in the Bible. When you're on the internet, people will say, oh, well, the Bible contradicts itself all the time. And the Christians will say, no, it really doesn't if you think about it this way. And then the critics will say, oh, well, that's just special pleading. That's just no true Scotsman. You're not holding the Bible to a fair standard. And maybe I'm not. I don't know. I can't prove that I am. But 21 Bridges and Queen and Slim, I say don't contradict, and I want to tell you why. Even though they have different emphases, even though they follow with the camera and bring the audience allegiance to a different place in the binary system, the system, reality that exists in conversation between them isn't binary. And in fact, in the movies themselves, the system isn't binary. In Queen and Slim, the movie which is more explicitly anti-cop, the movie where there are more bad cops and they really serve as the antagonist of the film, you get good officers. The one that sticks out to me is Officer Langston. I think that's got to be a reference to Langston Hughes. On his badge it said Officer Langston, who lets Ernest and Angela go after experiencing an incidence of racism himself. He chooses not to follow the strict duty of an officer of the law and chooses instead grace. So he's an image of what it can look like to be a good cop. Similarly, in 21 Bridges, the movie that's more about good cops need to be good and we need to put focus behind good cops, you have obviously the instance of bad cops, but you also have the instance of really good, smart robbers. You have this character of Michael, who is angelic. He's got that name of Michael, and he comes to bring a message. And yes, he steals drugs and kills people, but he also has a heart, and he has brains, and there's lines about how he could have done something else if his circumstances were different. And so he's a victim of his environment, and he becomes a sympathetic character. And so neither movie is saying all cops are good, all robbers are bad, or all robbers are good, all cops are bad. They're both saying it's a complex issue, but I'm sitting on one side or I'm sitting on the other. And then they invite us, the audience, to make our own decisions. And by putting them in conversation, the conversation enhances the conversation. I think that's true of the biblical text too. I think that when we can talk about things, and when we can talk about movies, and when we can talk about books, and then we can engage with one another afterwards, we get the best possible experience. I hope you feel that way too. If you do, I hope you'll interact with me. I'm a real human person that's on the other end of this video camera, and I'm available. You can leave me comments or follow me on Facebook or Instagram, and you can watch more videos, and you can share my videos to let other people see them. I hope you'll think about that, and I'll see you next time.
And when in scenes of glory I sing the new song, 'twill be